Welcome to another episode of the Caregiver and Spoonie blog. As you know me, my name is Jordan Banderas, and just a quick reminder: don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. And so, on this episode, we're gonna go deep again in regards to my trauma, and on this one, I might even cry because this particular episode is gonna touch a very hard subject for me, which is when I literally saw my grandfather die in front of me. Like, he took his last breath right in front of me, and it was the one of the hardest things that I have ever seen. Even after seeing my brother gain stabbed in front of me, this was actually after that, and I think this was one of the things that affected me the most mentally. But so here's what happened. This is how it all started. So my uncle moved to the States, and my grandfather was living with us. My grandmother died like in '91, so I was like 4 years old, and my grandpa lived with my uncle. So my uncle moved to the States, so my grandfather couldn't move to the States with my uncle. So what happened is that he came to live with us. Now my grandfather, he was very special to me because I know that he loved me. Because one of the things that one of the stories that my mom told me about him, or my uncle told me that story about him, is that when I was little, and I can't remember this, he used to smoke. He smoked for so many years. He smoked for a lot of years. He was like a big smoker. And I guess one time, and I cannot remember this, one time I told him, like, I want to smoke. So he gave me the cigarette. I put it in my mouth, and I'm like, no, light it up. I was like probably like 5 or 6. I was like, no, light it up. And he's like, no. And my mom and my uncle or somebody told him, like, yeah, do it. And he's like, no, are you sure? And everybody's like, yeah, just do it. He will learn. That's how we raised in Mexico, I guess. Yeah. So he lit up the cigarette, and I took a puff, and I started coughing so bad. I can't remember this. And I guess he felt so bad after that he quit right there, cold turkey. He quit cold turkey. Like, right after that, he stopped smoking. That's what my uncle says. That's what my mom says. So I believe it, because I remember him smoking, but then all of a sudden he stopped. I never realized why, but I guess it was because of me trying to smoke. So I pretty much saved his life, and that's why I have his name tattooed in my forearm, like right here. This is his name, Raul. So, like I was getting into the story, my uncle moved to the States. My grandfather had to live with us. But another thing that happened with him is that after my grandma died, so you guys understand why he was like a very special man to me. After my grandma died, he will go on walks he will walk miles. But one time, unfortunately, he fell and he broke his arm. But the problem is that he never told anybody. So literally, he never told anybody. And like months later, he was like, oh, my arm hurts. So my uncle took him to the doctor. They did some x-rays, and they're like, he broke his arm a long time ago. So after that, he lost most of the mobility in his arm, so he couldn't walk as much because he didn't have like the stability anymore. So when and another thing that I remember is that even though he was living with my uncle, he would come over to the place where I was living at the time, at an apartment, and he will come to live with us. I mean, to eat with us. And one of the things that I really, that's kind of like the most the thing that I remember the most is that he will always have to have Pepsi. He will always have to have a Pepsi with him. And that's why I got this on my tattoo. If you can see it, that's the Pepsi symbol. So he will always have to go. I will always have to go get a Pepsi for him every day. So that was very special for me, because he will be like, "Hey Jordan, go buy me a Pepsi. Keep the change, or buy whatever you want." So I will do that. I will buy chips for myself. I will buy the Pepsi for my grandpa. And then he will have his food, and then he will go away. He will go back home with my uncle. And that's a very special memory for me, because I remember going to the store and getting the Pepsi for him and eating with him. And anytime my brother will get mad at me or anything like that, he will jump in and trying to protect me, and he will even fight my brother for me. My brother was like taller than him, and he will fight him even though he was old. Like, he will still try to protect me. That's why he's a very special person in my life. So anyway, so he came to live with us, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but he fell ill. He got very ill for some reason. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he fell very ill. He couldn't even move at one point. I remember that at one point he was like bedridden. My brother had to help him in and out of bed. And this is another thing that happened. One day, my brother, I don't remember where he was. I fed my grandpa. My brother set him up. And so for some reason my brother left. And I remember that I fed him, and then he was like, "I'm tired, I want to lay down." But I couldn't really lay him down because he was kind of heavy for me. I mean, I was like, this happened I think 98, 97, so I was like 10, 11. So I tried my best to put him in bed. I really did. So, but I wasn't able to like laid him down in a way that he was comfortable. So I know he was uncomfortable, but I was able to like put him in bed and until my brother came back. I don't remember exactly where he went. So my brother was able to set him up correctly in the bed and things like that. But he became very ill. I remember this, that he started having hallucinations. Like, he was hallucinating, and one time I was like in the living room. He was staying with us in my room with my brother and me, so it was crowded. But I was in the living room, and he started crying. He started yelling my name. So I went to check on him, and he's all like, "Close the door, close the door." I'm like, "What door?" Like, he according to for what he was saying, he was seeing a door in the wall. And he's saying like, "The doctors are coming for me. The doctors are coming for me." I didn't understand at the time. So I was just like, okay, I'm just going to play along. So I acted like I closed the door. And he's like, "Oh, thank you." And I was like, "No problem. I'll take care of you." But like I was saying, like he became very ill. He became very ill. And there was this, the day that he died, for some reason, I don't remember why he started having issues, but he was starting having issues breathing. He was having a hard time breathing. So I was scared. My mom was scared. My brother was scared. So my mom decided to call an ambulance, because he needed to go to the doctor, obviously, or the hospital at that point. And the thing is that, unfortunately, in Mexico, the ambulances, the EMTs don't really care, to be honest, because they took a long time. I do remember that they took a long time. They took probably like 30 minutes to get there. They took a long time. My grandpa wasn't able to breathe correctly. He was struggling, and because we lived in an apartment building, we lived on the 4th floor. My mom and my brother decided to go downstairs to wait for the paramedics. So, just to give you like a little more, to be more specific, so you understand this, in Mexico, in the apartment building that we lived, like the roof, you can go into the roof where you can wash your clothes, and it has like storage room. So I will go to the roof and see if the paramedics will arrive. So I kept doing that back and forth. I kept running, and my grandpa was still having issues breathing. And I remember this, like I went to check on the roof. I went to check upstairs in the roof to see if the paramedics had arrived, but they didn't. So I kept doing that, back and forth, and I see them. I see the ambulance arrive. So I went downstairs, I go into my room, and I'm like, okay, they're here. Just hold on. Just hold on. And I remember walking into my room, like just walking into the doorframe. Just staying in the doorframe, and he took his last breath right there in front of me, because I can hear him when I was walking on the hallway, because there was a hallway. When I was walking on to the hallway, I could hear him having a hard time breathing. But as soon as I got to the door of my room, I saw him, or I heard him take his last breath, because he went like, and then he stopped struggling. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, he's doing better. He's doing better. He's gonna get better. And then I run to the stairs, and I see the paramedics and the MT walking slow. With no freaking, like, they were not in a hurry. And I was like, oh, he's fine. He's able to breathe. And they're like, okay, let's go check on him. So they go check on him, and they check on him, and then they tell my mom, unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do. He has passed away. And I'm like, no, but he stopped struggling. I saw him take a deep breath, and he stopped struggling. And then they just said, like, no, he died. He took his last breath. And I'm like, and I went into a state of shock, because I remember that after that, I couldn't say anything. Like, I had no words. I just kept thinking, like, oh my gosh. Like, did this really just happen? Like, I was like, literally, oh my gosh. And my mom is so like, oh my, like my mom's crying, my brother's crying. I remember that I didn't cry, because I was like in a state of shock. I was like, I didn't really cry. I was like, no, but he was okay. Like, I was hoping that it was just a lie, like he will wake up, you know. And then my mom like calls his friends. My mom called her friends. She called my uncle in the States. And then one of her friends show up, because they had to prepare the body. They had to put clothes on the body, and my mom didn't want me to see that. So what she did is that she sent me to one of her friends, who I was friends with her son. And the funny thing, not funny thing, but the good thing, I guess, is that she lived close, because she was renting my uncle's house. When he moved to the States, he rented his house, and this person was renting it, so I stayed with them. But I was in such a state of shock. Like, I remember, like, my mom's friend picked me up. She went to pick me up. She took me to their house, and I was just like, I didn't say anything. I remember walking in the street, like my mom's friend was talking to me, and I didn't say anything. I was just like thinking, like, this is just a dream. And I remember, like, my friend came over, and he's like, are you okay? And I didn't say anything. I was just like, I'm tired. And I went to bed. I went to bed. I slept. And then I was like sad, because I was like, oh my gosh, this happened. and I saw it. Like it was like hard for me to believe because I was like 10 or like 98. It wasn't. I was like 11 years old. I'm like cry. I'm like, I didn't cry, which I think that was the worst thing that you can do as a person. Like if you see something and you want to cry, you should cry, because I held everything inside for so long. So what happened in that case is like the next day after I slept at my friend's house, I called my mom and she said like, you want me to I asked her like, you want me to go back home, and she's like, yeah. My mom's friend is so like, oh, you want me to walk you? Because we were living close to that area, I was like, no, I can walk home. So I walked by myself. My mom didn't even pick me up. She's just like, walk, just come home. And I walked by myself, and I just kept thinking in the way is like, I know he's gonna be okay when I get there. Like I was still hoping that he will be there, alive, when I got there. Well, I got there. I get there, and the body's no longer there. His bed is already made, and that's when it really hit me. It's like, oh my gosh, he is gone. But here's the messed up part, and this is why I believe that it's okay to talk about your feelings, because nobody, except my friend, but I didn't really know what to say at that point. Nobody else asked me how I was feeling, like what I saw, like or anything. Like nobody asked me like, Jordan, are you okay? How are you feeling? So I held that inside of me for so long until I was able to talk about it. Like anytime I talk about it, I still cry. Like I remember when I opened up to my wife and I talk about it and I cried. Just like I'm crying right now, and I'm okay with it because it's like, you know what? It happened. That's life. Unfortunately, he passed away in front of me. And it was hard for me. I kind of held a lot of resentment towards the paramedics because they didn't really hurry. They were walking like at like not even normal speed. They were taking their time to go upstairs. Like they usually, like you would think like here in the States they will run. In Mexico they didn't run. They walked so slow, and I think that's why he didn't survive, because if they had run to see him, probably they would have been able to give him the oxygen that he needed. So I held that resentment. I held anger because I couldn't do anything. I felt ashamed. I felt like, again, helpless and hopeless because I couldn't do anything. And I held that for so long that made me angry because and like I mentioned in a previous episode, or in the previous episode, as a kid, you don't really know what you're feeling unless somebody can help you get that out of you. In my case, nobody did. And because I lived in a very abusive household with my mom and my brother, I'm gonna project the next best thing that I can understand, which is anger and being abusive. So that's why I did. That's why I was a bully for so long, because of things that happened, because of how I was raised, because of things that I saw, and literally nobody actually said like, Jordan, I know you saw your brother getting stabbed in front of you by your mom, or you saw your grandpa died like literally right in front of you. You saw his last breath. You saw him take his last breath, like right in front of you, and nobody really asked me, what did you see, or how are you feeling? And the thing is that now that I'm an adult and I see kids suffering now, and I see people going through similar things like the things that I went through, and as adults they don't know how to behave in like, or they're aggressive, they're depressed and things like that, or they have a lot of anxiety. I understand that as an adult you think that the kids don't feel the same way as you, but they do. And the problem is that as adults, you need to take care of your kid. If you know that your kid saw something that can be considered traumatic, talk to them. Don't let them be. Don't let them grow. Don't let them grow up the same way that I did, where I held everything inside, and then because I couldn't articulate when I became older, as I grew up, I couldn't articulate exactly what happened or how I was feeling. The next best thing that I was doing, it was turned to anger, and probably this is one of the major reasons why domestic violence happens, and I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be making one episode just about domestic violence and how if we take care of our mental health, that probably will help a lot in regards to those type of cases. Because and like I have mentioned before, I was very angry because of things like that. Like seeing my grandpa died in front of me was very hard for me. I was devastated. I never talked about it until I was able to open up to my wife, and this was even before therapy. So I talked to my wife about it. I cried. I talked in therapy. I cried about it. I talk about it right now, and I'm crying because it's like the worst thing that I could ever seen. Because, like I mentioned, like my grandpa was very special to me. He took care of me, and I saw him die, like literally right in front of me. Like I saw him take his last breath, and I couldn't do anything about it. Like as a kid, or even as an adult, sometimes you're gonna feel like helpless. Like I know a lot of police and a lot of cops and EMTs and even doctors have PTSD because of the things that they see, but they can't really talk about it because, for one, they're not able to articulate it due to the way that they were raised. Because if you were raised on a type of environment like mine, like the way that I was raised, like in a very abusive household, you're not gonna be able to talk about your feelings because they're gonna make fun of you, or also due to this freaking thing that society makes us believe that we can't talk about our feelings. Like if we talk about our feelings, that's weakness. That's a show of weakness. Well, like I have said before, it's not a show of weakness. It's actually a show of strength. Because once you're able to talk about it and you're able to process whatever's going on, like in my case, it took me years. It took me so many years. I know that because of everything that happened to me, I have ruined relationships. I was never able to keep a job. I play the victim. I blame others for things that I was doing. Like that happens a lot. A lot of people are going through the same thing, or not the same thing, but similar situations where they're playing the victim. They're saying that pretty much everybody's against them. That's how I felt, because I felt ashamed. I felt angry about things that I saw. Like in this case, my grandpa dying in front of me affected me. So if you have seen something that affected you, again, as a kid or even as an adult, talk about it. Again, if you know, like if you're a kid, I saw this story the other day or months ago about this single dad that was taking his kids to somewhere, and somehow he ended up having a car accident, and he was decapitated, like right in front of his kids. When I heard that, I'm like, oh my gosh, the kids! Somebody needs to take care of those kids. They're gonna need therapy because they saw that. So a lot of kids see things that we're not supposed to see. Sometimes by being curious, we find things that we're not supposed to see, and we're like, whoa. Or sometimes just life happens, or sometimes other people are gonna do things in front of us that we're not supposed to see, and we don't even understand. So this is why I share my stories, because I know that a lot of people are suffering right now mentally and emotionally. And if you're suffering mentally and emotionally, it's because probably of something you saw or something that happened to you, and you might even think that just because it's in the past, you're going to be able to escape it. But guess what? Unfortunately, you don't escape it. You can't escape it. It's a part of you. And sometimes I know a lot of people. This was exactly how I felt because of everything, especially after my grandpa dying. I kind of was just like trying to do things, other things, and not think about it. But just because we try to not think about it, that doesn't mean that the memory is not there. So that's why it's very important to take care of ourselves mentally, so we can live a better life, because we are being tormented by our own memories, and that's not fair for you. I can tell you this, like after I went to therapy and I'm able to talk about my struggles or my challenges, I've been able to live a better life. I've been able to be a better husband, and I have mentioned this before. I have been able to be a better husband, a better friend, a better worker. I've been able to improve myself, and I'm gonna be talking more about it in here on the blog, even on the podcast, because it's very important to take care of yourself, and especially with men. We have this belief that we have to show strength all the time. We have to show that we're the best. We have to show that nothing affects us. But we're human. We're not robot. We're not a robot, though. We're not robots where we don't feel. We do have feelings. And as kids, we're developing those feelings. So if you saw something as a kid, as an adult, and nobody talks to you about it, or you don't talk about it because you don't even know what you're feeling as an adult, that's gonna come back to haunt you. I can guarantee it. Like, that will come back to haunt you. Like the beatings that I took from my mom and my brother, everything that I saw, getting hit by a bus, seeing my brother getting stabbed in front of me, now seeing my grandpa literally dying in front of me, haunted me for a long, long, long time. And I don't want anybody to go through the same thing, because it's hard. That it can cause depression, and obviously, unfortunately, if it causes depression, if it gets out of hand, it can cause you to have suicidal thoughts. It can cause anxiety. It can cause crippling anxiety, where you're not able to function, and then you feel depressed because you're not able to function. And I'm going to be talking about that in other episodes on the podcast, because that's very important. That's something that we can end if we take care of our mental health. If we take control of our mind, if we know what we're feeling, it will help you a lot. Because I know it helped me. So I know that we can do this. And that's my story for today. I actually feel good about talking about it now. And thank you for always listening. Thank you for all your feedback. Thank you for all your support. I hope you guys are taking this seriously in regards to mental health, because in my opinion, everybody has some sort of mental health issue with depression or anxiety. If you're a workaholic, there's a reason why, and I'm gonna be talking about it, because I used to be a workaholic. I know people that are workaholics, and when I talk about that with them, they tell me what they were told as kids, and I'm like, that's why. That's the reason why you're a workaholic. Because or if you feel like you're worthless or anything like that, the same thing is because somebody probably made you feel like that, and you didn't even know it at that point, but you have that feeling inside of you. So I'm just letting you know, like, hey, we are human. I suffered a lot. I went through a lot, but we can do better. We can get better. It's a challenge. It's a fight, but we can do it. As long as you never give up, you're never going to fail. So that's it. This is the story that I had for you guys today. And again, thank you for everything. Thank you for your emails, and thank you for your support. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And if you want to share your story, you can actually send me an email to thecaregiverandspoonie@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, the Caregiver and Spoonie community, or the Caregiver and Spoonie podcast page. And I'll leave you like always take care of yourself and have a good day.